if actually we uphold the one-child policy, it will increase the abortion rates. Each and every time you conceive the second child, what happens? Simply because you fear the government penalties on you, what will you do? You will abort.
Putting a lot of money into education of one child is very easy. It's much more easier than allocating much money. 2, 3 kids or more.
Welcome back to the show. Thank you for staying with us. We hope you're tweeting at Great Debaters EA and our individual handles. We are discussing matters of children. Should Africa adopt a one-child policy? So over the break, Chris was burning. He said he wants to pose a question to Shanina. So Chris, what's up?
If we were to get married, how many babies would you want?
I would want one child because it will be more comfortable to take care of one child that I can be so connected with, so that will understand me, that will listen to me, that I'll be able to handle, that I'll be able to understand. And also, I won't have any worries of where am I going to get the next meal for my 20 children. I just have one mouth to feed.
So I think I get your point. It's rather a bit selfish to have just one child. What do you think?
I want to disagree with you on that one. I'm not a proponent of the one-child policy. I don't think anyone should have a say over how many kids you have. If that's my ability or even my need, I may be able to take care of 10, but I only want 1, or I even want none. You don't get to say that's selfish. It's my resources are not our resources. How I spend them is not it's not a worry of anyone else.
Just the way you said it, I have the ability to take care of 10 and I'm going to just take care of 1. So all the resources that I would have spent on 10, I spend on 1. Don't you think it's
There's nothing wrong. How you choose to raise your child is your business. Even if I spend the rest of the money on charity, or I spend it all on that one child, you don't get to call someone selfish because of the decisions of what they feel comfortable doing, right? I think as Africans, we have entitlement to children. We feel like having many children gives us status, gives us a lot of pride, as if it's something to be proud of. I don't think the number of kids you have is something to be proud of. Why not make good kids? Why not?
It is.
No.
That's
the quality of children you're making. The quality of children you're making is way more important than the quantity. And we have so much attachment to our kids that we feel like we need to force people to, 1, have children, 2, have many children.
Research shows that most Kenyans would prefer 2 to 3 children. 2 children, that's reasonable for a population. And Chris brings a valid point. What if you get a second child by mistake? What happens?
I had a story once about a lady. I'm not sure what country she was from, but I think the same rule of getting one child was applied at the time. And she had 2 more children. They were twins. So she had to choose between giving up one of her children or choosing to save both and risking going to prison. I'm not a mother myself, but I don't know what happens. I would be broken if I had to choose between one of my children. And if she left these children and chose to go to prison, there was no assurance that these children would even remain alive because it went against the rule at the time. So I think putting a law such as that, it's infringing on right to life.
Why in Africa do you think we place so much value on children, on the number of children, on having children? It's very easy to be an outcast in Africa if you don't have children or if you just have one. As we said earlier, it seems selfish. Why is that?
Because it's tradition. We try to run so much away from it and try to say that we are modernized or with the 21st century. It doesn't change the fact that you're African, you're black, and that the culture, the values of the African people run in your blood. As much as you want to deny it, they do, and they have an effect in the decisions that you make. And trying to tear away from that, I think it's just proving to be detrimental. Because once you erode your culture and you erode the very things that make you African, I don't know what you want to have left in you that would identify you as being African.
Okay, I think that it's all kind of where have I been brought up? Like this. If Africans from time immemorial said, if you want to be recognized in society, you should only have one child, that's what we'd be talking about right now. So tradition doesn't exist. You choose to pick it or to leave it.
So it's just a construct of I don't know, what do I call them, of past practices. Like if we wanted to change it, we could.
If you wanted to change it.
So if we adopted, like, let's say, the one-child policy, 50 years from now, it would be tradition is to have one child.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And again, I don't want to be rigid-minded because, of course, there are people who would like to have 3 children, 5 children, and they can be able to raise these children. They can be able to support these children. But I'm thinking about people who have been raised in that traditional setting where if I have 20 children, then I'm someone who is looked up to in the society, But this person doesn't have enough money to take care of those children. This person doesn't have the resources to take care of these children. You find one room and 10 children are sleeping in one room with the mother and the father. That's not fair. So what the one-child policy could help people like this.
The conditions I would accept the one-child policy is not for everyone. For those who cannot sustain having many children, those guys in poverty-stricken places, but maybe guys in upmarket, guys living in maybe you can't limit them. Maybe you see that's the only time, in my opinion, we can accept that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Let me just ask you something. When we say we need to be able to take care of children, have as many children as you can take care of, and things like that, I feel like we're only looking at the financial aspect, but bringing up a child is so much more than that. So I might be well off, I might have the money to take care of 2-3 kids, but the more I have, maybe the less time I'll have for them. And that's not something you can profile from the beginning. You can't just look at me and tell her, oh, you're emotionally unhealthy. I don't think you can bring up a child, So how would we profile, aside from just the financial aspect of having children? It becomes very hard.
The financial aspect really matters, by the way. If yes, the other aspects do matter, but even in the States, if you can, they have a law, and it's even passed. If you can't put the child under a roof, give him or her food, but you can give him or her the necessary other necessities like love, bringing up, that child is taken from you by social services. You all know that. So about financial aspect plays a big role. So then after finances, then comes the other parts. So yeah, I'd say it plays a big role.
Okay, in my opinion, and from my knowledge, biology plays the most important role here. A single child policy could never work, even if you try to change the culture. One child is not how we were programmed as human beings, and there's no way, isn't a single species programmed in such a way. Okay, in medicine, we learn about the limbic system. It's involved in preservation of the individual and preservation of the species. And how do you preserve the species? Through reproduction. So you can try to implement laws, you can try to change people's perspective, but at the end of the day, as human beings, we are programmed to reproduce, because for our species to survive, we need reproduction. It's one of the most important things in a human's life. Yeah.
When you say that there's some people who the one-child policy might work for, and those are the people who you'd advocate it for, and then the others who, of course, we won't bother looking, as in trying to impose the one policy on. Don't you think now you're creating a sort of segregative society where, okay, fine, you're unable, so we'll implement this policy for you, and okay, you guys are able, so you have a choice. Don't you think we're giving privilege to we're giving more privilege to people who are already privileged?
We can't call it segregating, because this is what's applied in first world countries. If you can't financially fend for the child is taken from you until you can be able to.
Yeah, it's taken from you because the child was allowed to be born. Now, when we're saying that because you can't finance it, you can't have children.
Now, you're given an opportunity to work. You see, look for more. If you see here, you'll get one. We're not saying you won't get a child. We're saying you'll get just one. But not more than one, unless you can show that you can be able to bring up more than one child.
Okay. Shanina?
I feel like if you actually put that policy in place, you're going to allow people to try and move from their comfort zones. That's my thought. If you're living in a poverty-stricken place and you know I want to have 3 children, but I know with the kind of policy that is in place, I can only be allowed to have 1 and I want 3, I'm going to work my head off until I'm able to get the number that I want.
Yeah. Research actually shows the lower your income level, the higher the likelihood of you having more children. So trying to limit those guys in such a way will be almost impossible, and it's going against their rights. If I want 4 children, even though I'm poor, I have that right. I should have 4 children. I don't need a lot of money. We can go to Western somewhere, get a farm, and that has always been done. People have survived on their land. There's free primary education. There's subsidized secondary education, and they want to make it free. We have job in university. So the child will get almost equal opportunities to a well-off child.
Maybe we just do a final statement. Most of us are against the one-child policy. So give us your alternatives, How do we deal? Because even if we've argued against it, it's hard to ignore the fact that we are straining our resources. There will come a point where we might be overpopulated. So then what do we do to ensure that, we're not just blowing up in terms of numbers, that we're actually improving as a species, as a nation, as a continent?
The only solution is to just raise their standards of living, get them out of that cocoon that they feel that the only thing that they can do is give birth to more and more children, and give them the power to even be financially able to take care of the child. But you should note very importantly that money is important, but it's not everything.
If you can't have that ability to raise many, at least let's limit you to 1 until when you show the capability of getting more children, or you can be able to help those children, then we can allow you.
I'll still go back to what Mariam said. It's quality and not quantity.
I don't think Kenya has a population problem. Kenya has a resource management problem. If we can manage our resources, more job opportunities will be created, and you'll realize that 40 million isn't enough to even sustain optimum economic growth. So I believe if you're ever to manage it, family planning, as the government has always done, is the best, and not some backward route.
Like Chris and Ron have said, I think family planning is so important, and one, educating people as well. We might not force you and tell you have 1 child, but research has proven time and time again, the more educated you are, the less children you're likely to have. Family planning, even let's spread it out. Let's get the myths out of people's heads. All the crazy ideas that people get into their heads about contraception. And I think we'll be able to manage our population a lot better.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. Now, for you, our audience and members of our viewers back home, we want to know. Join us on Twitter and make us understand your sentiments on Planned Parenthood and whether we as Africans should adopt the one-child policy. I am Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. I'd like to thank the members of our panel, Claire, Chris, Ron, and Shanina. And thank you at home for watching and taking time. Follow us on Twitter at Great Debaters EA and keep the conversation going. We'll see you next time.
One-child policy will lead to control of overpopulation in Africa.
The one-child policy, in one word, I would say it is a policy that is meant to gradually put the human species into the list of extinct creatures.
Welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. This is the Connect edition, where we aim to seek the opinions of past debaters on topics that have been discussed on the previous Great Debaters stage. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. Our motion today is highly controversial. Africa should adopt the one-child policy. Our proposers were trumping that we are overpopulated. There are scarce resources, and we should basically just decide to lock it in and just say it's one child per family and no more. What do you think, Shanina?
I agree with them totally. We have enough people already. We have, I don't know, our resources are strained. You see people are even building houses where they can't thrive. That's how many people we have. Like seriously, we want to add that. Do we want to do that to ourselves? I think we need to adopt this one-child policy. And if you think about it, the more educated someone is, the more they are involved in family planning. When you go to the rural areas, that's where you'll find people with 10 children, 20 children. These are people who are thriving on the minimum wage. If you look at the people earning like enough money to sustain, they have at most 5 children.
No.
Hey, okay, Chris, you're opposing this motion, eh?
I stand with, I'm a traditionalist on this one.
Okay, you're standing with the opposers, that is,
With the
because they
opposers?
argued about tradition.
Yeah. Not the one-child policy. I want, what did God say? Procreate, fill the earth.
Some could argue the earth is pretty much full.
Yeah, we have no more space.
You don't understand the essence
You know
of
what?
it.
God should have given us an insurance policy. Fill the earth to this amount, okay? After that, we are not liable.
Essence of having people procreating, getting children is it's not just for growth, not for personal growth. It's for unity within the family. It's for the society. It's for how will I call
Unity
it?
within the society.
Let me.
Oh,
Having a
Chris, you have to actually
I think he's saying
Just
a
give me-
cohesive family unit cannot
cohesive-
just be
yeah,
like
yeah, like
one child and then you're done.
One child and then you end the story is not. What if you die? You already had that one, you can't get another one. Are you considering that? Then if let's say each family was to have one child, now the world would be limited
How will it be limited?
in population. Then it won't be what's this? I'm losing words.
You're getting passionate about it.
You see, when we are so many in this room, each one of us has a role to play. Yeah, the more we are, the less the work.
Okay.
It's more physics.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
largest-
you are the same person
No.
who said this duplication of roles, right?
No. You know, I'm saying, what I'm trying to say in simplicity, it's like physics. Larger surface area has minimum force. You see, if you had a small surface area, you have to apply a lot of force. If you remember, if you did physics in high
That
school,
same physics states that small surface area has more effect than the large surface area.
my point is not about the impact. Please listen. I'm talking about the larger surface area. There's little force is applied.
Oh, Chris, you know you have to
The result.
justify why we should have more than one child.
Let's say you remember Kuku Danger. Let's say I'm a Kuku Danger. You don't want 90-something children. Huh? Let's say I'm a Kuku Danger. I have 90-something children. Out of those 90, I will not miss 10 doctors, 10 lawyers, 10 engineers, 10. I've built the society.
Let's hear from Claire and Ron.
Let me support Chris. Kenya's population isn't at the optimum level for economic development.
According
and-
to
Okay, let me
According
continue.
to
Let me
the-
continue. And Kenya's population isn't high enough to warrant a one-child policy. I'll give an example of a country which has dropped it. China. No, China dropped it. Or as Donald Trump calls it, China. China, after a long period of that policy, they had a very old population and a very small young productive population. Therefore, the young population has to do so much work to support that old population. And now their population pyramid is inverted. So as long as they maintain that one-child policy, the old-aged population will always double It's actually double the young population. And you don't want such a problem in Kenya. I believe the reason, Nairobi, since we live in Nairobi, Nairobi is a place which is overpopulated, but most areas of our country, including my homeland, my home area, is underpopulated. Other towns are underpopulated. We haven't reached the optimum population. We are not utilizing our land to the optimum.
Okay. I want to challenge you on that. You talked about China having to eventually drop the one-child policy, right? Before they got to that point, they had a serious problem of overpopulation, right? I mean, China has 1 billion people. How can a seventh of the planet be from one country? Isn't it cleverer for us to stop ourselves in our tracks? Right now, we're seeing how fast we're reproducing, how many resources we have. It's better for us to control ourselves now and maybe not even have the policy for as long as China did and get our population under control and move on before we get to the point where maybe we have an inverted population pyramid. Is it, prevention? Isn't it better than cure?
I'll answer your question. China needed the one-child policy. Theirs had gotten out of control. They were at that level, they needed it. We don't need it. Our population is at around 40 million, right? 40 million, considering our land area, the amount of resources we have. The problem Kenya has, we are not utilizing our resources to the fullest. But when we start utilizing those resources, you'll realize 40 million isn't as large a number as we will want to be productive, to be optimally productive. And the moment you implement such a policy, we immediately start seeing our population drop. And we don't want to drop our population.
Okay. We haven't heard from Claire, though.
Just before I give it to Claire,
Okay.
Just to add on what Rona said, do we need it? Are we in that crisis? Is it really necessary for us to adopt
Prevention is better than cure.
No, you prevent when you're seeing there are higher
Signs.
chances of getting, like, for example,
There are higher chances of overpopulation.
If there was no malaria, let's say malaria was only in Australia, it was not in Kenya. Why would we take chances of preventing malaria in Kenya and there's no chances malaria will reach Kenya?
There is Australian
I'm
tourists.
saying, it's in Australia. Malaria, it's an example. Malaria is only in Australia. Let's say, for example, it was only in Australia. It can't reach Kenya. Why should we as a country implement why should we implement preventive measures to prematurely, that's the word, prematurely to protect ourselves when we can't get it? It's not even close. If it was near Uganda, we had malaria was in Uganda, or like when Ebola was somewhere near us, you see people started taking precautionary measures. The same case applies. We have not yet reached there. We're not even halfway there.
Okay, before we go on break, may we have Claire?
Mine is a more personal approach to this. I was with a friend of mine recently, and she was telling me she wants 7 children. I looked at her, I'm like, you seriously want to have 7 children in this day and age? She's like, yeah. I grew up in a house full of children. My sister is like a year older than me. My other sister is 2 years younger than me. Then there's another one and another one. It's a fun house. It's a fun growing experience. And my parents are able to take care of all of us. And seeing how passionate she spoke about her family and the close-knit and the relationship she had with her siblings, I wished I had more siblings. I wished I had someone who I could get along with, and it wasn't just limited to one person. You need to learn how to socialize from the home setting. If you're alone and you live in this rich palatial home and you have everything you need all in one place, bring about the sustainability and the education and the ability for you to be properly taken care of, then what's the point of getting outside? You will not even be able to relate with people outside the home setting, which is your mother and your father. You need to get out. You need to learn how to live with other people, older people, younger people. It's all about socializing and getting the social skills that you need right from the home setting. That's what I think.
I think when we come to, from the break, we'll definitely have to discuss. She's raised something very important. If I can take care of 15 children, why shouldn't I have 15 children?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, our audience, are you for tradition? Should you be able to have as many children as you can, or are you for more frugal approach? Should you have at least one child per family? Join the conversation on Twitter at Great Debaters EA. See you after the break.